Right, hi friends, welcome to episode 89. A slightly different start to this edition, and the reason for that is that I hadn't intended to do this one. I thought I'd do some little bits because, as you're probably aware, I'm up at the barn now next couple of days a week. So this actually is Tuesday and Thursday, and I thought, well, I could just gloss over Tuesday and Thursday because it's all prep work. This is probably going to be, I don't know, a less disappointing. It's not as much fun because it entailed trying to put those half-drop windows back in the offside. Now, you might remember I've said before, I want to get these windows back in because I want to get them in before the winter. Yes, it's all right to say, oh, the winter's months away, but you know how things go. So I really wanted to get these windows back in on the offside, and I wanted it finished on Thursday. Unfortunately, everything was going to go against me. So it's going to be one of those YouTube videos that people go, oh, you know, everything went wrong. Anyway, let's kick off with it, shall we? Right, so what I need to do is to make this standard rubber fit around the half-drop windows, and it needs a little bit cut out of it. And then I also need to get the new rubber that I've got from Baines to fit into this groove here. If I can't get the glass and the rubber to fit into the groove, it isn't going to work. That might give you a hint. But anyway, stick around because I've got something nice at the end. This was something I was not going to film because it involved lots of swearing and yeah, things did go a wee bit wrong. Let me just show you something. Look, this is a bit of window rubber, and what you have to do is you have to trim the window rubbers down here and here, and it really leaves a very fine bit like that. It's 4mm, and cutting it with one of these, a Stanley knife, is bloody difficult. So anyway, I've done it. I've got, this is version 3. So at this rate, I'm going to run out of window rubber. But anyway, version 3 is in. This is this little bit you saw me putting on the other day. So what I'm now going to try and do is to put back the drive mechanism. I've already put the runners on here, but they're just on 2 little screws. So hopefully I can peel them back sufficiently. Right, let's see how we get on. If it gets a big bang and I lose this glass, well, right, let's go. A friend of mine saw me doing this and said, that's not the way you do it. You're supposed to put that piece of windy stuff actually on the glass before you put it in the bus. Maybe I shouldn't have put that on after all. Oh, there we go. Go on. Down. It's better. Time for the hammer. Still got a little way to go down. Huh. Still a little way. This side looks all right, but that side looks well out. Close. Oh. That is still about half an inch out. I don't know. That's annoying. I don't want to hit this because this is my new chrome thing that I've done. The rubber's in. I don't think the rubber will go down any further, but that needs to go down about half an inch. Yeah, about half an inch. Damn. Are you expecting it to break? I am. That's still too high. I did say this was going to be a cursed job, didn't I, this one? That's why I didn't film it, because I started doing this, making this rubber about lunchtime, about 12 o'clock. It's now 4 o'clock. So just making the rubber alone has taken about 3 hours. And now this won't go in. Might have to be a job for another day, I think. Oh well, I don't know what's going on here, but it won't fit. Never mind. Right. Put the kettle on, I think. Right, I accept we're going backwards a little bit here, but here is an old piece of rubber, and we need to copy this with a new rubber that we got from Baines, and it was a right horror story. Some jobs on the RT are fun, some jobs are boring, most of them are, all this prep work, and other jobs are just downright frustrating. A good friend of mine who's restoring an RTL locally said to me, doing those half-drop windows is a horrid job. And yeah, having done one, I concur that that is the case. So the biggest problem is this. This is some of the old rubber that came out of it. There we go. All right, it's got a little bit of a shape on it, unfortunately, but that's just because it's been round the glass. On the edges here, you have got a bit of the rubber that's been cut away. In fact, looking at that, it's all scaly. So I don't know what they've used for some sort of cutter. So anyway, so it's been cut all the way down here, right? And also there's a little bit that runs off at the top here. Now that in itself is not a problem, but cutting this is really a problem. And the reason for that is I've got about, I don't know, what's that, about 2 mil, 3 mil there. If you cut too far, what can happen is, one, you end up in this gully and then it ruins it. Or secondly, it goes all wobbly, it goes all over the place. And I did an experiment with a small offcut that I had, a bit left over from the first time I put one of the windows in over the other side. I ended up with about 7 or 8 inches. And I thought, right, I'll give that a try. So I tried it and I was reasonably confident to take this amount of rubber off this roll. This is the brand new rubber. And by the way, here it is. Oh, lucky, look. So I started to cut it with a cutter, and it is all over the place. I really struggled. And then I decided, well, that's got to go in the bin. I can't use that. It's a waste of rubber there. But anyway, hey-ho. So I carried on a bit further to try and improve the technique. The problem is, because it's rubber, it's so flexible. So the moment that you apply the Stanley knife to it with a clean blade, it just goes all over the place. It's just, well, it does what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be flexible. So, as I said, as soon as I start to cut it, unlike wood or anything like that, you can hold it down, you really can't get a straight line on it. So it looks horrid. And in this case, I think this is one of them, I actually went through the rubber channel, so it completely wrecked it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make another one, but I'm going to start with this end on this roll. And the reason for that is if I make a mistake and make a mess of it, all I do need to do is just chop that off and throw that in the bin, and then we'll start again. So the problem is, as I say, holding it straight. One of the ideas that I came up with was to put it in the frame of the bus, because the window frame is absolutely perfect for holding it straight. But that then gave me a secondary problem. As soon as I put it into the window frame, this gap started to close. So you end up with a kind of wonky line. So what I've come up with this morning, this is Thursday, by the way, I've made this. This is a bit of the RT ceiling that we got. We actually did that back in Christmas now, isn't it? So this is a bit of an offcut. So what I've done is I've thinned that down so it is now glass size. And the idea is I'm going to pop that in there like that somehow. Here's one we did earlier at Blue Peter. Look, oh God, there we go. Hang on a minute. Right, so by popping that in there and running it along, this one's not going to play ball now, look. Right, hold on a second. There we go. Right, so by putting that in, that would actually, fingers and toes crossed, hold this rubber straight, which will give me the opportunity to use the Stanley knife to cut down on it. So anyway, that's a plan. It may not work. If it works, hurrah, I found a solution for it. If it doesn't, we'll have to look for something else to do. Oh, well. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention, I also tried putting a sheet of glass in as well, and that didn't work either. So there we are. Right, let's push on. The problem with the sheet of glass idea, which was a good idea because it would have held the rubber straight, is actually the Stanley knife. The Stanley knife is actually quite wide. If you have a look at that, it's almost as wide as the rubber itself. And that means that when you're trying to cut about 3 millimeters away from the glass itself, it has a tendency to push the body of the Stanley knife, plus you're trying to hold it as well, in the wrong direction. So you're actually now cutting into the little groove the glass sits in. So I abandoned that idea fairly quickly, but that's why the glass idea didn't work. But I needed to come up with that idea with that little piece of wood. And it's sort of one of those ideas, you're driving home and all of a sudden you think, what if I converted a little piece of offcut of wood and then see if that worked. So see how we get on with that bit of wood. Right, so the first thing I need to do is measure up where I need to cut that little ledge out of. I've already got one little mark on there. I put that on earlier on when I was doing something else. But anyway, so I need to make some new marks. There we go, that one there, and one on the other side, that one there. And I need to allow a little bit more because on the old one, which you'll see coming up now, there's the old one, right? You'll notice that at the end, when my hand and finger and pencil gets out of the way, you'll see it's a little bit sort of looks like dog-eared at the end, and that's what I thought it was to begin with. So I got the measurements wrong first off, but it turns out that goes inside the bus, but the outside bit finishes a bit earlier. So anyway, here's my plan: is now to place that bit of wood that I made into there. And then finally, hopefully, we can get the damn thing straight. You see what I mean? It just keeps fighting you all the time. The reason is it's rolled in. It's been rolled up when it came to me, and obviously it's going to try and get back to how it was. The ones that have been on the windows for decades, have already assumed the position of the window, which is really nice. And as Brian has pointed out, they have a habit of changing shape and sort of length over years, where they shrink back slightly. So right, so there you are. Inserting in that little piece of wood. Now, a little bit further, I think, on this one. So that's the idea. It just holds it straight, and the G-clamp at the end there is to stop it flapping around on the desk. And now what I need to do is to simply make a line roughly about 3 to 4 millimeters from the edge of that block of wood. So I mean, it's all pretty tedious, unfortunately. So I think I shall skip to me actually making a cut on this. Okay, now there were probably a couple of things on this take that I did well, and one thing that I didn't do too well, and I'll come to that in a minute. First thing is I left it on the roll, which is what I said I was going to do. So I made a mess up of this. I was simply able to chop this little bit off. Although it doesn't work, that theory, if you make a mess up of the other end, because once you've chopped it off the roll, you've then got to do this all again with the other end. So you make a mess up of that, it still goes in the bin, sadly. Luckily, I ordered probably about 10% more than I needed. Now, what I did was the first cut, I very gently drew a line and scored very gently just along there. And I got quite a nice straight line with that. So the scoring wasn't a problem, but the second problem was, and you can just about see it in this shot, is I've got the blade angled inwards, and that is going to cause a disaster later on, because the blade needs to be at 90 degrees to the bench, and at the moment it's not at that, and I hadn't realised, I hadn't worked that out. I was looking at it and thinking I was going all right with this. But the thing that I did on this one, as I said, that I did really well, was I actually, I did it in small sort of like, I don't know, a couple of mil cuts. And now you can see I'm getting really sort of putting a bit of effort into it. Now, just a quick point. If anyone says, oh, hang on a minute, I bet your blade is blunt on that. Well, no, it wasn't. These are all brand new blades. And they're also some really tough ones that I bought, some very, very, very sharp ones. So the rubber is just, I mean, it's very dense, and it's a bit of a bugger to cut. You can see that. Look, it's the amount of effort I'm putting into it. But unfortunately, the angle that I'm doing it is really wrong. So this is what happened, friends. I managed to cut through into the gully where the window sits. So, in other words, it would just be, as I cut the other bit off, it would have just become two parts. So, yeah, that was useless. So that one went in the bin. But luckily, I hadn't cut it off the roll, so I was able to simply snip it off just beyond there and have another go. Right, attempt number 2, after I chopped the little dodgy bit off that I did before. A little bit of wood back in, but the thing that I did wrong on this one is I plunged the knife in too deep, because I was trying to take a bit of a shortcut and just I thought, I'm going to get this done. And that was my mistake. There you go. See what I mean? I really should have just done what I did before, which is score a line along the top of that rubber and then just work along the rubber. But in the end, this bit come to grief as well, sadly. Yeah, so then what I ended up with was all these funny little off-cut bits I then had to sort of try and slide off. I've got, unfortunately, after this one, I've still got another 6 to do, so I'm not really looking forward to it, quite frankly. Horrible job, but there we go. It has to be done, sadly. And I was warned, it's a horrible job to do. Right, so disaster number 2. Finally, I managed to get at least one done. Now I've got the, you may remember I did a test little sort of fitting of this little rubber on the top of a window. I got some a little trial sample from Baines, and I found it worked. You probably saw that in an episode a couple of weeks back, and I thought, right, fine, that works. I'm going to buy loads of it from them. So I bought all I need to do the top and bottom of the windows, everything basically. There's two sections. There's this one here that fits into the windy bit, and then there's another one that fits on the bottom of the sliding glass. So anyway, unfortunately, for some bizarre reason, it was a little bit thicker, which meant that this wouldn't go on the top, and I had a horrendous problem with it. Now, I was a bit concerned about this bar as well, because I noticed there was a ruddy great big dent in the far end. You notice I put my little windy thing back, but not the handle, but there was a damn big dent on the end, and you can see it just is not going to fit on there. Right, so that first attempt didn't work, so I tried every trick in the book. One of the things to do is to put fairy liquid and water on it. So that's what I'm doing here. I've actually added fairy liquid and water. The only problem with fairy liquid is one of the reasons I was trying to avoid it is one, it makes a mess of everything, especially if you come to paint afterwards and there's a residue still on there. But also it dries out very quickly and it becomes a bit like a glue. What I'm doing here is I've got to measure this bar with the glass to make sure the glass is seated in the right place. I know it looks obvious, but it's again, I've got to go back to this. See what I mean? Look, so, and I got fed up with it. So, oh damn, you can see I got a bit annoyed there. It is, and I'm going to use metric again because it's probably a little bit easier. But it's about, you've got to position that bar about 1 centimetre from the end of the glass, because then the rubber goes up where that is, a little bracket thing at the end. So basically you've got to give it a little bit of space for the rubber that goes around the outside, that big thick rubber that I spent ages trying to do. So now what I'm trying to do is thump this down. I did notice, and I should have really picked up on it, that there was a whacking great big dent down where the handle end is, and someone at some point has thumped it really hard with a hammer. And it sort of played on my mind while I was doing this, and I was thinking, why would you need to hit it with a hammer? And then of course I sort of twigged afterwards. I thought, well, maybe there's actually something wrong with this. Maybe this is not accepted, so I'll try another one. But I persevered with this for far too long, trying to get this to work, and thankfully I won't bore you with all of it. But in the end I ended up having to put this little bit to one side. Now the other thing you might notice, I put my little handle thing on, and I don't want to put the handle mechanism on the thing that sort of turns it round, but I haven't put the handle on, and the reason for that is I want to keep the handles off the bus for the time being, because I'm going to cover these up so they don't get overspray or dust on them. And then someone's going to say, well, hold on a minute, Dean, why didn't you just leave them off altogether and sort of screw them in later? Well, there's 2 screws in the gully just underneath, and they basically hold it in place. So I can't do anything, I can't sort of leave it off, so I've got to pop it on. So out comes the wooden mallet. Here we go, bang, bang, bang. I'm banging where the dent was. I don't know, really. I mean, well, I'll make it a bit worse. But no, I didn't. That doesn't really damage it at all. But anyway, that didn't work, so I had to sort of sling that idea. But after seemingly ages and lots of frustration, I managed to make this bit. There's a bit of rubber that's on there. You notice that the glass is all smeary and dirty, and it was all nice and clean earlier on, and that was because I even resorted to using WD-40 on it. I'm going to clean it in situ, but the other 3 glasses, you can see the other ones there, these 3 glasses actually, by the way. You got the big pan, then you got the other 2 sheets of glass at the right hand of shot. They are scrupulously clean because I use the glass cleaner and the little buffing machine on them, so I buffed them all up, but they've still got a few scratches in them, but they'll do. But anyway, this glass, unfortunately, with all of the fairy liquid, the WD-40, the water, everything else I tried, is a bit smeary. So, and I'll add some fingerprints to it as well. But it was a absolute curse of a job, because now it doesn't want to fit in there, because the bit of rubber, that thick bit of rubber that is at the top, is pushing that the windy thing up too high. So pushing the main thing in is not a problem, but actually getting it in the right spot. So yeah, that proved to be a lot of aggravation. This is the second bar, because I got the one that had a dent in it, that started off with a dent. I decided in the end that there must be something wrong with it, so I thought I'll try this one. In the end, what I had to do with this was I had to open up the space where the rubber and the thing sits in, the glass sits in. I had to open it up, and of course then that created another problem, which I won't bore you with at the moment, but it wasn't easy. So anyway, there we are, and I was totally frustrated with this, and what I did was, to be very honest, this wasn't going as I planned, so I actually abandoned it at one point. I thought, right, I might as well go home and or get on with something else, and unfortunately I thought, no, it's not going to beat me. I'm going to come back and I'm going to make it fit. Right, but luckily for you, I decided to put away the camera and just get on with the job and get it done. So I've got the lower windows in. It's not as I want it, and the little windy, the one that comes down, is also in and positioned correctly at the moment. But yeah, it's going to be a job in progress, and I'm going to have to go back and look at it. It's going to go on, I think, what builders call the snagging list. But there we are. But yeah, I've still got another 2 of those to do, and I'm not looking forward to it. The 2 on the near side, oh hell. But at least they're out of the bus, so it might be easier when they're out of the bus because they're on a frame, and I'll be able to turn the frame round several times, and hopefully that might work. Anyway, oh, by the way, while we're on this this final picture, just above the windows, you'll notice there's some little cutouts. One of the cutouts is for the lamp fitting, but the other 2, left and right, are for little blocks of wood. I've done the ones on the near side, but because I had to have them made and shaped. They all broke when I took them out 30 odd years ago. So I've had them made and shaped, and I just need to fit them in at some point before I put the Rexine panels back. But they basically hold the Rexine panels, and also the bottom ones hold the bottom of the frame as well. So so make sure the frame is positioned in the right spot. So there we are. Right, let's go to something a little bit more positive. Right, before we do this, I know this is a bit upbeat, which I'm pleased at long last. You will notice this is slightly out of sequence. So anyway, here is the unboxing of the handles. They have arrived. These are the little handles, the winding handles, plus the little mechanism that that's mounted to. They were really scabby, and I didn't want to put them back on the bus in the condition they were, so I sent these off for chroming. So they have arrived. They've come back now. Open here, it says open here. It's all the way around the box. Look at that. So let's have a look and see what these have come out like. Oop, hang on. Oh, there we go. Oh, very nice. Oh yeah, very nice. That's yeah, that is that looks almost brand new. Oh, look at that. Lovely. Right, so that's one. What else we got in here? There's another one. It's like Christmas, isn't it? Yeah. A little bit of scaling at the top there, but that's okay. I think we'll get away with that. These are, yeah, these were. I sent these to a firm on the south coast, Western Supermare. Is that on the south coast? It's south of here, anyway. Originally, I found a firm that were not far from Peterborough, and the reviews were really very good, apart from one. I mean, you can't really take much notice of these reviews, can you? But anyway, I dropped him a line, asked him to quote for these, and he gave me a price. I went back to him once I'd taken them off and cleaned them and everything, and the price went up by 50%. I mean, it's understandable that you might want to look at them and think again. But anyway, so he stuck the price up by 50%, and I put in the email, I said, can you please let me know what you think the postage is likely to be? And he wrote back and he said, we do not, and not was underlined, post our products. So that was it, really. I'm going to travel all the way up there for these things. But anyway, these guys turned it round in sort of just under 2 weeks. The other lot were asking for 6 weeks, so it wouldn't have been until the end of August that we've been able to put these windows back in, because this is what's holding us up at the moment, getting these handles back into the bus. So once they're back on the bus, I can then put those half-drop windows in, although they are looking really complicated. So, right, so there's those two. We've got a handle here. Well, that's really nice. Oh, yeah, very much. Lovely. Will it turn? Yeah, just about. That's it. Oh, it's lovely. That's really nice. Ooh, very good. It's a few bob though, I must admit. It was a bit more than I thought it was going to be. We were chatting in here the other day, one of the owners, and he said there was a chap who had an RT, and he spent fortunes getting things chromed, which is up to him. It's his RT, does what the hell he likes. But it wasn't,
I suppose, a good use of money, but it's up to you. Anyway, there we are. Another 2 of them. Right, so hopefully I'll be able to get these back on the bus this month. It'll look good. Another 2 coming up. Da-da-da. 3. There's 3 in here. There you go. That's there. 1, 2, and 3. So that's all 5. That's nice. There's only 4 of these because one of these is for the handle at the front of the bus, and I didn't really want to take that window out, to be honest with you. So I only got these 4 done. So there's 2 for the offside and 2 for the near side, and obviously 2 for each, and then you got that one there. So, right, that's looking good. Pleased with that.
Right, if you got this far, blooming well done. I promise never to mention one of those half-drop windows ever. Oh, maybe I will. I don't know. Right, so this was something I really wanted to get on with, and we're going to include this in the next episode. The paint has arrived from our friends Williamson's. Thank you very much, guys and girls. So it is now time to get on with preparing the panels that my friend Alan delivered the other day. So anyway, look forward to doing it as usual. So thanks very much for watching. I know this has not been the best one. I accept it's been a really tough one, this one. It does go to show that not all is plain sailing. So let's hope that spraying these panels actually goes quite well. I'm just cleaning them off here. There you go. So, see you next time, friends.